leading the charge to make the 2024 Broker Carrier Summit possible, and we are so excited to have their support. In case you haven't heard, TAFS offers much more than freight factoring. It provides a comprehensive support system for trucking companies of all sizes, specializing in fast and efficient invoice factoring with the ability to pay carriers in as little as 1 hour. And TAFS services go well beyond factoring, offering a fuel card that unlocks major fuel discounts, flexible business loans that are designed to cater to the distinct needs of a carrier's operations, a dedicated, responsive client experience team, and much more. Dawgs Logistics is a 3PL freight brokerage based out of Birmingham. Alabama Black Box Logistics was formed in 2020 by 3 friends, Logan Dyer, William Graves, and Will Hopkins, in a basement office with the goal of bringing transparency around the clock communication and hassle-free customer experience to the table. Multi-service fuel card, the industry's first fuel card, was created by an over-the-road truck driver in 1978 to offer a safe, simple, and cost-effective way to handle fuel and trucking expenses. Initially, it addressed safety concerns of carrying cash on the road. Today, it combats advanced fraud with best-in-class technical and personal support. WireB is an AI-powered call automation platform built for freight brokers, designed to screen every inbound call in real time, block spoofing, phishing, and double brokering scams, verify compliance through integrations with FMCSA, Highway, and My Carrier Portal, and automatically connect brokers with qualified, vetted carriers, all before a human ever picks up the phone. Sales-CRM is built for freight broker and agent sales teams. Manage your shipper prospecting and follow-ups. Organize your carriers in the lanes they run. HD Ships is a leading logistics provider specializing in sustainable and tech-driven freight solutions. With hubs in Reno, Phoenix, and London, we deliver comprehensive services, including full truckload, expedited cross-border, and intermodal freight. Leveraging proprietary technology, we offer 24/7 tracking, real-time visibility, and advanced automation to ensure safe, compliant, and efficient transportation. Our commitment to sustainability enables clients to offset emissions through carbon credits, aligning logistics with environmental goals. At HD Ships, we prioritize transparency, reliability, and exceptional customer service, empowering clients to achieve seamless, sustainable logistics solutions worldwide.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Glad that GCP is up and running and that we are live today.
Yeah, it's kind of fun doing a Friday show, though, anyway. We've been doing a lot of Wednesday, Thursday shows, so good way to finish the week.
Yeah, man, gives me a good excuse to kind of wrap up early and disappear for an hour on Friday and hide out in the office, so can't complain.
Yeah, I'm sure your owners are like, oh, I'm sure you timed that perfectly, Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock.
Hey, man, it was Google, not me. But yeah, man, I'm pumped for this week's episode. Before we get into it, though, let's touch on these sponsors.
Yeah, let's do it. Multi-service fuel card, been around since 1978. Jessica, Patricia, fantastic people. They have a fuel card for brokers as well. YRB, I'll let you talk about YRB.
Yeah, our latest sponsor, fighting fraud via AI inbound call vetting. They also won an award. I need to check this out so we can start talking about it on the podcast at a Freightways event, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Then we've got Black Box Logistics. If you guys have any open deck freight, we're your people, or you're looking for a W-2 job, we are hiring. I'll let you take HG ships.
Yeah, HG ships. We also have a W-2 and an agent program. But yeah, if you're looking to be an agent, I'd love to talk to you. Sales Dash CRM, freight specific CRM. We've had Josh on the show. Will and I both met him in person. I think the only freight specific CRM out there. It's been fun to see they're the OG sponsor, been with us for a year. It's fun to see their growth. So
yeah, we use Sales Dash at Black Box. We love it. And man, I get a lot of messages about people demoing Sales Dash. And I always send them to Josh, and he's like, man, I swear we're not asking people to ask you. It seems like they're really blowing up, getting a lot of new customers. So good for them. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about them. Then we've got our banner sponsor, TAF's factoring company out of Kansas City. If you guys are in the market, or if you just want to learn more, they do a really good job of putting out a lot of educational content. Great guys over there, Ryan and Rob. If you want more info, shoot us a message or get in touch with them. Tell them that the dog sent you.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm excited for today's episode. I mean, I think if there's one company that's kind of gained a lot of traction over the last year or two, new companies definitely. Cargado, you see them all over, and it should be fun to dive more into it. It should be a fun show.
Yeah, man, 100%. I feel like every time I log into LinkedIn, I see something about Cargado, and then I saw that they got some pretty nice, fresh Peter Millar pullovers. So might have to ask Matt about those, see if maybe we can line something up. And if you saw our post yesterday, so we weren't able to go live due to GCP being down. We messaged Matt and said, hey, unfortunately, GCP's down. We can't stream. And his response was, what's not down, and that's Cargado. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and bring him on to the stage. Matt Silver, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, happy Friday. Thanks for joining us. We were just talking about social media. I have to give a shout out to I met one of your reps at Broker Carrier Summit and Manifest, Miguel. Great guy. We were just saying we see Cargado everywhere. I think your reps are all over LinkedIn, social media, definitely getting the word out.
Miguel works so hard that he sleeps on planes. I don't know if you saw that picture.
That was a great post.
I was going to ask if that was him. I was like, I'm pretty sure I saw him. It looked like he was dead.
Yeah, I think he's even considering starting his own podcast or his own blog or just like a line of clothing or something for the freight industry. He's eating this up.
Yeah, that'd be great. He's where I saw the Peter Millar pullover I was talking about. That's some.
Those are. Yeah, I've got like 3 sitting just on the other side of my desk.
That's good stuff. Yeah, you guys should set. If he does the clothing line, you guys should throw those in there as well. I'd buy one.
We're not really going to do clothing line, but we do have these cool new hats.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, so for those of our audience that doesn't know who you are, which is unlikely because again, you guys are everywhere. Give us a quick intro, a little bit about your background leading up to Cargado, and then we'll get into Cargado and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I've been in the freight industry my entire life. Was a little kid running around at American Backhaulers back in the 90s, but ultimately started working at Coyote when I was 19 as an intern tracking freight. Did a million different jobs over a decade working there, and ultimately ended up building the Mexico business or starting that and growing that over a 3-year time frame. And then spent a year focused on Canada, got to know a lot about UPS and how they operated. And then ultimately left in 2018, started my own company, Forager, which was a cross-border digital freight brokerage. So we were similar to an Uber Freighter Convoy, but focused on cross-border. And we ultimately grew it to a certain extent, but couldn't scale past like where you want to get to ultimately with a business like that. And so we ended up running an M&A process, and we got acquired by Arrive Logistics in January of 2022. That became their Mexico business. And then at the end of September of 2023, I left and started Cargado. And so right around the same time, Convoy collapsed. I met Rylan, who became my co-founder. We hit it off in terms of our alignment about what we wanted to build. Had raised a $3.2 million pre-seed round with Ty Finley from Iron Spring and Zenda and Wishoff Ventures and a bunch of other entrepreneurs, and then started building. And we launched the load board V1 of our product in April of last year with a couple of brokers using the product, and now have 220 brokers using the product today, all over North America, US, Mexico, and Canada, all sizes, large and small. But 8 of the top 10 are using it today, about half of the top 100. Matt, actually, I think a few of your coworkers use it. I just figured out right before our call.
Oh, cool. I'm getting a lot of, it's interesting. That's why I was excited for this call. I'm getting a lot more potential agents ask me about cross-border freight. And I don't know if maybe it's just because it's more online and being talked about, but it's definitely coming up more in conversations.
Yeah. So we built this specifically for a broad range of brokers. This is not, one is it's only for freight brokers, 3PLs, freight forwarders. It is not for shippers. We don't tell the shippers. It is, the load board term is something that most people in this industry understand. And so that's what we've aligned it to. But at the same time, a lot of people don't like load boards. And so, or they consider it like a necessary evil. And we don't want this product to be like that for people. And so some brokers use it to cover spot freight. We see, large and small posting plenty of spot opportunities, whether it's a load that they already have that they need to cover for today or tomorrow or next week, or their customers offering them a load and they're basically trying to go get a rate and a truck in hand. And so they have the ability to post a potential. We call it a potential, but in some spaces you might call it a can get or a non-com. And then carriers know that. And so they appreciate that transparency. Carriers bid on that freight. They negotiate through the platform. There's loads and lanes. So there's a lot more flexibility in what we've built out, along with a lot more data.
So I have 2 immediate questions for you. Where do you see most of the loads posted? Are they going to Mexico or to the States from Mexico? And then going off of that, what's the biggest differences for going in versus out? And then, I'll let that. That's probably enough without adding too many questions on you at once.
So the places that get the most freight posted are kind of the most obvious markets, because that's where the most people live, because there are the most manufacturing facilities, and that's where the most industry is. But Monterrey, obviously, which is about 150 miles south of Laredo, so it's like the first major city in like the central part of Mexico that is closest to the border. There's the Bajío, which is like central Mexico. That's the valley. And that includes Irapuato, Guanajuato, Celaya, Querétaro, Aguascalientes. So there's a bunch of cities that are heavily industrial, automotive, aerospace, electronics, that are all made in that area that are very popular. And then Guadalajara, Mexico City, we see a lot of postings. Juarez, Tijuana, and Mexicali, a good amount too. So there's a good amount of volume posted in northbound. Southbound is more sporadic. There's a decent amount, but it's all over the U.S. going south, which is surprising how much is available, because people want southbound. That's like gravy to carriers. And so the way that I would put it is, if you think about how the U.S. relationship is with Mexico versus Canada, for Mexico, as the United States, we rely on that country for manufacturing. So nearshoring, right? Like, you're hearing about all this nearshoring right now. You're hearing about everybody being concerned about the pandemic and everything else that happened in China, and now we've got tariffs. And so there are all these reasons why everyone's going, and even now that we've got a trade agreement in place, it sounds like with China, it still includes tariffs, and it's just not 150% or whatever was announced. And so there are all these reasons that say, hey, manufacturing overseas doesn't make nearly as much sense as it makes to do it in Mexico, where the labor cost is similar as overseas, but the time zones are about the same. They're not exactly the same, but they're similar. The culture and the language is a lot easier to deal with and manage, because the cultures are a lot more similar. There's a massive Latino population in the United States. There are more people in the US that speak Spanish than Mandarin. And so there are all these reasons why it makes more sense to manufacture in Mexico. And so that is where all the manufacturing happens. And so as the United States, we send stuff to Mexico to get manufactured, put together, assembled, comes back up to the United States. potentially for final assembly to be made in the US. For Canada, it's just buying and selling. We're not like sending stuff like the cost of living is similar as it is to the United States. So like the stuff that moves between the US and Canada the volume moves more consistently bidirectionally, whereas Mexico to the US, there's way more volume than there is from the US to Mexico. Very long answer, but does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And then so give us the 101 cross-border Mexico US for dummies course. I would imagine a lot of our audience isn't very experienced with cross-border. Me myself, I'm fairly ignorant to it as well. So kind of walk us through the process of maybe like a live shipment picking up in Mexico going to US, what that looks like. Is it on the same truck? Is it being cross-docked at the border, and then vice versa, US to Mexico? What goes into that? Just very macro level, basic stuff for our audience, because again, I'd imagine a lot of them have no idea with the Mexico stuff.
Yeah. So, and I'll do more northbound than southbound because they're similar, but the northbound stuff is more common. So let's ship some tequila.
Hell
yeah. Where are you in Atlanta?
I'm in Birmingham. Let's do Tijuana to Birmingham.
Well, but there's no tequila in Tijuana. The tequila comes out of Guadalajara.
Okay. Let's just argument's sake. Tequila.
But hang on, we're gonna do Guadalajara because I'll give you both. Actually, I'll give you both of these. So, ignoring whether you do it through Cargado or whether you call a carrier or not, you get a load from your customer going from Guadalajara to Birmingham. And you're going to call, I'm going to use this exact same example I gave the other day, but you're going to call James from M&J, based in Laredo, Texas, M&J Carriers. He's got like probably 200 or 250 trucks. He's got about 700 trailers. So the ratio is usually 3-to-1. He's headquartered in Laredo with terminals in Laredo and a few other places in Monterey and some other spots, but he has all these trailers that go into Mexico, but his drivers live in Laredo or Nuevo Laredo. They don't go further than that. And so James is going to send for a pickup in Guadalajara, he's going to call a partner carrier like Innovativos based on Guadalajara. And he's going to go to the guy's name is Jota, the guy that runs it. And he's going to say, hey, I need you to pick up a load for me in Guadalajara that's going to be going up to the border. You're going to use one of my M&J trailers. You're going to go pick it up in Guadalajara at this tequila facility, and you're going to bring it to Nuevo Laredo. I have a yard there. It's a secure yard, and you're going to drop the trailer there. And I'll pay you $2,100 to do that, Guadalajara to Nuevo Laredo. And then in some cases, a transfer truck, like a driver that just goes right across the border, kind of like a drayage truck in the ports, that driver is going to take the trailer from Nuevo Laredo in Mexico to Laredo, Texas in the US. Just move the trailer right across the border and then go drop it off after it goes through customs. So it has to go through Mexican customs to export from Mexico to the United States, and then US customs for the import side. Once it gets to Laredo, it gets dropped off after it goes through customs. It gets dropped off at M&J's yard, and then James sends one of his drivers in Laredo to go take that trailer and go deliver it. So that's option one. Option two, and so like you pay M&J on that door-to-door movement from Guadalajara to Birmingham, you pay him the whole thing. And then he subcontracts the Mexico portion and the transfer, and he pays each of those guys. So like if you're paying him $4,200 and he's paying out $21 to Innovativos, he might be paying $125 to the guy at the border. He's keeping the rest of that to pay his US driver and whatever stays for his business. Option two, so that's if he has CDL drivers. If he has what are called B1 drivers, which are Mexican drivers that can cross the border, all that stuff that I just explained up to Nuevo Laredo is the same, but instead of a transfer truck taking the load across the border, a B1 driver is actually going to take that trailer, go across the border with it, and go deliver it. So that driver will cross the border with it, and they'll deliver. They're not allowed to go into the United States without a load and without a plan to deliver.
Can they get a reload out of the States?
Yes. Well, so you can get a reload after they deliver that load, but it has to go back to the border or to Mexico or to Canada. So it's got to be an international shipment. Right. If let's say they deliver in Birmingham and they can't find anything from Birmingham back down to Laredo, and the best load they could find is Houston back down to Laredo and gets like $600 for it, they'll deadhead all the way to Houston to get that load to get back because of how well it pays to go forth. Or they'll try to find something in Louisiana or Mississippi. So like they'll try to find something. Obviously now they're going to go into Cargado and find more southbound freight than they've ever been able to find before. But like they'll go look for something, but they cannot do a load from Birmingham to Dallas.
Okay.
And then Dallas down to the border. They could deadhead all the way to Dallas if they want to, but they cannot do a pure domestic load because that's called cabotage.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, yeah. So those are the two ways that a load moves across the border on the same trailer, which is called door to door or through trailer or direct, or in Spanish caja directa, which is direct trailer. The other way is transloading, where the freight gets unloaded at the border. And so in this other scenario, and if you're a broker that's using a TMS that can split these loads up, then you're going to potentially procure, and if your customer allows you to do this, you're going to go find a trucking company. You might call Innovativos directly and say, I'll pay you $2,100 to take this load from Guadalajara to Laredo in your own trailer. And then when it gets to Laredo, you're going to unload it at Ermilo Richard's warehouse on Union Pacific Boulevard. And when it gets unloaded at his warehouse, then I'm going to send in a different trucking company. And so in that scenario, if you think about like how you build out a big US carrier network with backhauls throughout the United States, you're going to try to use a carrier based in Birmingham that happens to be in Laredo, that'll take that load from Laredo to Birmingham for like $1,400 instead of $2,200 or $1,600. So, you know, like the math might not be right on that, but like it'll be cheaper to use a separate carrier for that. But not every shipper will allow that. Not every TMS can support that. So those are the different ways. And that's like, that breaks down into basically direct versus transload. But within direct, you have two different methods.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So diving a little bit deeper into it. So this Mexican authority drivers, or do they have authority? Is it similar? So U.S. drivers, CDL, like what are the requirements, I guess, like with these guys, or is it?
I mean, the ones that are driving in the United States have to be able to like drive in the United States. So I don't. I'm sure there's a commercial driver's license version in Mexico that translates for the United States, because I know people from other countries can't just get here and get in a truck. So, but keep in mind, these are not drivers that are like driving throughout Mexico. They're staying in Nuevo Laredo, like they're staying in Juarez, they're staying in Tijuana, and they're going into the United States because the miles that you're driving in the US are going to pay better than the miles you drive in Mexico. And so a separate truck is going to drive to and from the border from like the Mexican markets. And then, you know, Monterrey is 150 miles from Laredo, but like Mexico City, 700 miles. So that's, you know, that leg needs to get handled by a Mexico domiciled driver that does not have the ability to cross in the United States.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
You go down there quite a bit, right? To visit. I think I've seen a couple times you go down in Mexico.
Yeah, I've been to Monterrey a few times recently, like in the last 6 months, I would say. I'm going to Laredo next week for a big event with a bunch of carriers and brokers.
How is your Spanish? Is it fluent at this point?
I can speak it better than I can understand it. So I can speak it close to fluently. I mean, not every single conversation. And like I used to tell people at Arrive, I was like, you know, I could like get my way out of a jam in Laredo if I got a problem. But like, I don't know that I could pitch a shipper, you know, like I don't think I'd be the one to go in. Like back when I was in like brokering freight, like I was not the guy to go pitch a big shipper in Mexico. I could pitch a big shipper in the United States about anything. But like trying to translate in my head and sell in Mexico or like in Spanish in Mexico, like, no, that would have been terrible.
The reason I asked that, it looks like a lot of brokerages now are developing Mexico teams and wanting, you know, bilingual reps just because of the amount of Mexico freight. I mean, Spanish is the number. I'm kind of like you. Your Spanish is probably better than me, but I wish I had studied it past, 18 years old, but it's starting to improve. But it's just so many people, it's the second biggest language. And I'm seeing all these brokerages now, they're adding Mexico teams. So the volume has to be there.
The volume is there. The money's there. The opportunity, like you get to expand your wallet share with your customer. You get to provide another reason why they rely on you, because Mexico is really hard. And if you can nail it, like, great. And now we've got this product for people that gets them like started with Mexico. Like, can you get to 100 loads a day without a Mexico team? No. Like, can you cover 100 loads a day with our product? Yes. And so that's where all of a sudden you're thinking about setting up an operations team. You're not worrying so much about a carrier sales team for Mexico. But I like there's, I've been encouraging the guys at Rapido Solutions, for example, to set up an operations department for people in Mexico because they're in Guadalajara. So like, we're never going to set stuff up like that as a tech company, but there's, other people can do that. So we want to continue to build functionality for people. So like our products in English, Spanish, and French already. And we want to continue to build out more and more functionality for people that makes them feel comfortable doing business and, cross border without feeling like there's a barrier because of language or culture or operations.
Yeah, so our one of our sponsors, which we didn't mention them, they do all of our graphics, Trio. It's a staffing company, and they're primarily out of the Philippines, but they're thinking about opening up a branch in Monterey. And I think it's likely due to a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. So it'd be interesting to see if they do that. Then speaking on the language, so Black Box, my company, we have one Hispanic woman, and they're like once a day, there's a situation where you hear somebody there's like Rebecca, yelling across the office. She comes running by and starts speaking Spanish. So yeah, it's very valuable. It's one of those things that, we have one person who speaks Spanish, and she's used. She helps out daily with other people because they can't communicate, or there's a language barrier. So that'd be very helpful to have bilingual reps.
Yeah, I remember back in the day at Coyote, like as we started to get Mexico freight, it was like walking around the floor going, "Do you speak Spanish? Does the person speak Spanish?" Like, you're like looking in, like, people when they would join would like fill out what languages they speak if they were fluent, and then that's when I found out all these kids that said that they spoke Spanish, like really just like took a Spanish class in high school or college and claimed they spoke Spanish during their interview to get the job. And then when I was like, how well do you speak Spanish? They're like, bueno. And I'm like, no. But I will tell you, local internet social media celebrity Miguel Aguila started his career at Coyote on the Mexico team with me because he did speak Spanish. And now look where he is on LinkedIn all the time. And doing a good job at our company too.
Yeah, I was saying at the beginning of the show, I met him, great person, met him twice in person. We do have a question here, Will. Obviously, we know the answer to this, but it's an interesting question.
Is it this one right here from Uriel?
Yeah.
Is Cargado DAT for Mexico? Also, does Cargado offer operations personnel?
We are. I don't like to phrase it that way because it's like there's not, it depends how people feel about it. We're a marketplace for cross-border freight. So freight brokers can post their loads and lanes. I think historically DAT to me is more of just that pure like load board concept of here's an origin and a destination, call me or email me and hopefully things work out. For the way that Cargado works, there's a lot more detail in the product. A lot related to the border, related to the pickup requirements and delivery requirements. My personal opinion about mine and Ryland's, actually, we're very aligned on this. We want the information to live in the system, in our system in particular, but come from other people's and become the shared source of truth for people so that when they go and look at a posting in Cargado, they read it. They can see all the details. They can see that it requires a carrier to move in bond. They can see that it requires a CTPAT certified carrier, or it needs a drop trailer. There's no notes field. Like it's all structured information. And so rather than having to get 25 different phone calls and rely on either 25 phone calls and 20-minute conversations or AI agents to take all those phone calls and then still have to do that and then still verify the information, carriers, when they go to Cargado for both Mexico and Canada, can see all these details in our product rather than having to call and get it and then find out that they don't want to haul it.
Yeah, that's right.
About the carrier, I'm curious because we've been talking about Mexico too. Obviously, you guys have a Canada operation. And I was just thinking about how helpful Cargado would have been, for me. So I don't know if you know where this, I'm assuming you do in Canada, but like just place like Newfoundland, Canada, somewhere way up there. You have to take like a ferry. And I had a referral for a seafood customer out there, and I'm a cradle to grave rep. I was pretty busy at the time, and I'm making all these calls to all these Canadian companies trying to figure out how I can get this across this ferry and this and this. And I was like, well, thinking about this during this conversation. If I had Cargado, I wondered, do you guys have like, how's the carrier network? Do you guys have like carriers in like some of these remote places in Canada, or is it mainly just in, the big cities right now?
Newfoundland, and Labrador is what you're talking about. It's in like the far northeastern part of Canada. It's like past Maine.
Yeah.
And yes, we do. There are carriers in Cargado that can service that. And including for seafood. I'm guessing that might be like lobster if it's coming from up there. And it's like that's super high value and usually needs teams. But yeah, I mean, so our product is free for carriers. We don't charge trucking companies. We don't want to be biased by the revenue that would be associated with the carrier. We want to be purely focused on building a really high quality carrier network that people can trust and rely on. And so we're not like, there's not owner operators in our network today. Like it's, for cross-border freight, you need a larger network anyways, or a larger footprint. But yeah, whether it's Newfoundland, Labrador, or Vancouver, or British Columbia, or anywhere in British Columbia, or anywhere in northern Quebec, people can post that freight, and they'll be able to get bids and options from carriers. All the bidding happens online too. So all the bids go through the product. You're not getting phone calls. There's no phone numbers.
So what about for a carrier to get onboarded with Cargado? And I guess I have questions of my own about the insurance for Mexico carriers. Like how does that work, or is that a lot? Like what's the differences how do you vet a Mexico carrier that your freight's insured, or is it insured? What does that look like?
Well, so there's two different topics I think we should talk about. One is the carrier base and the other is cargo insurance in Mexico. So the carrier base, I'm going to say there's three different groups of carriers in our network now. There are Mexican trucking companies. Those trucking companies might move within Mexico or to and from the border. There are US-based trucking companies that service Mexico, like my friends at M&J. They've got an MC number, a DOT number. James is American. He's like from El Paso. And he lives in Laredo, Texas, in the United States. And they're a U.S. company. They just send their trailers across the border, and their drivers might go across the border, but not into Mexico. So that's the U.S. carriers that service Mexico that provide door-to-door capacity. That's the bulk of our network. And then you've got Canadian carriers that service Canada, U.S., and like some Canadian carriers service Mexico too. So on that side of things, your U.S. and Canadian carriers have cargo insurance in the United States. Now, to go to the second topic, which is cargo insurance in Mexico, there is no cargo insurance in Mexico. So, or there's no requirements for it, rather. Let me clarify that. So, in the United States, like there's a law that says that you have to have a certain amount of cargo and auto in general. It's not just like every freight brokerage agreed to that. It's like, that's actually a requirement. And so you have to have, I think it might actually be 75K, but everyone's pretty much at 100K at this point for cargo in the United States. That just doesn't exist in Mexico. They just don't enforce it. They don't require it. If there's a claim or if there's like a truckload gets damaged, there is a level that's required to be reimbursed, but it's like 2 cents a pound or 20 cents a pound. It's something where it's like $2,000 for a shipment. And so the way that it works is the shipper, the beneficial cargo owner, is responsible for insuring the freight in Mexico if they want the freight to be insured. And they're supposed to take that liability. They're not supposed to pass it on to the broker or the carrier, because no carrier has that insurance, so they won't agree to do it. And brokers won't get it either or don't have it. Now, Reliance Partners, if you're familiar with them, they have a program called Borderless Coverage that this guy, Mark Vickers, put together. And that is actually cargo insurance in Mexico. He's the one putting the event together next week in Laredo. And so you can actually buy cargo insurance either at the load level or at the customer level. So like if a customer said like, I'm giving you this Mexico freight, I do need it insured, you turn around to Reliance and you go buy insurance. And it might be like $150, $200, $250 per load. You pass it on to the customer, they pay for it, and then it's insured.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be worth it. That'd be a big selling point, right? If somebody's moving Mexico freight, haven't been able to get insurance, and then you got this product. Yeah, I've always wondered about that. I didn't know about it, but I've always told my people we don't have insurance. But it's interesting to know that they don't. It's just different.
I do. Well, I told you I need to write that blog about how to get started with Mexico, and then I ended up writing something else, but I will write that still. I do have one that I already wrote about insurance and liability in Mexico, so I'll repost that soon.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. I know it's one of the biggest questions I've always had about Mexico, and never really went out of my way to figure it out. Just told everybody, no, I don't have insurance. So, okay, I want to ask this, and I mean, I just have to. So, the cartel, what does that look like with truckloads and stuff?
Now,
I don't know.
before answers that, we had another guest on the show a while back. Maybe Matt will say this, but there's certain things I don't think you're allowed to really talk about. I think that's Will doesn't know that.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm in Birmingham, you know. I mean,
You really are new on Mexico, right? I even knew that, Will.
Here's the thing, like when it comes to like, let's just address like freight security in Mexico. So there's only certain things. I think that's probably what you're actually asking me about, not if I've ever dealt with the cartel, which I have not, and like as far as I know. But as far as like freight security in Mexico goes, think about what you would sell off the back of a truck, right? Like tequila, for sure. High theft, high value, high risk. TVs, appliances. Now, appliances are a little bit harder because those things are big, but they definitely, that is an issue. Any sort of alcoholic beverage. I've heard of truckloads of beer getting stolen. I've also heard of it being the truck got returned with money in it, just not the beer. And so like there are definitely commodities that are higher, tires. Just think about anything that if you got the truck in the trailer and you opened the doors and started selling stuff off the back of the trailer, could you sell it like that? And like cigarettes, like the stuff that would sell off the back of a trailer is what you have to be careful about. Moving automotive parts, like I remember moving freight for a tier 1 automotive supplier that was supplying in a Volkswagen, and then this was years ago, and we had a truck get stopped somewhere in like southern Mexico, north of Puebla, and they opened up the trailer doors and they looked inside the trailer. They got the paperwork and they were like, these are tier 1 parts for a supplier. Like, what are we going to do with this? And the guy like closed the doors back up and was like, on with, go on your way. Like, there's nothing for us in here. So, but I also remember having like a truckload of like electromotive parts or something, like something with like rail. And it got like the truck, the flatbed trailer, the equipment all disappeared and it never came back again. So like, but I'm giving you like 2 examples of the last like 10 years that I've been doing this. So it's not as common as you would think. It's an issue, but it's only with certain commodities.
Okay, no, that makes sense. So similar question, and if you guys want me to get off this topic, eventually, y'all let me know. But I want to ask, have you experienced any smuggling? So say I have like a normal load, right, and then carrier goes in, puts illegal product in there, maybe hiding in their tires, whatnot, crossing the border with your freight. You guys experience that?
It won't be the carrier doing that. It would be, I've heard about that being inside of equipment, like in, like earth moving machinery. Like it's in everything. Yeah. I remember I was in El Paso once years ago, and I was at a golf tournament, and I golfed with like was it DEA or maybe it was custom CBP, but he told me about the fact that like a lot of drugs were coming in like smuggled in tile, like in flooring in between it, or in fire extinguishers, because if they take apart the fire extinguishers, they like break and you can't put them back together again, and so to inspect them it gets harder. Let me tell you about like CTPAT, so Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. That right after 9/11 happened as a way to prevent like weapons and illegal immigrants or like people coming into the country, like terrorists primarily. And it expanded to be about just protecting the United States in general, in supply chain in particular. And so freight that comes from Mexico into the United States, most of that freight is coming from a facility that is CTPAT certified in Mexico, which it's like TSA pre-check for freight, but with way more requirements. And so the facilities in Mexico have to have security. They have to have cameras. They have to have like drug dogs and all that stuff. There's all sorts of crazy inspections that can happen at the border. So like I can't think of like more than one or two occasions where like there was a problem with something getting smuggled. Because you usually work with reputable carriers, and if they have one issue like that and they lose their CTPAT status, most shippers require it. And so if you require it, then you can't use a carrier that doesn't have it, because then you break that kind of chain of command, if you will, and it loses that effectiveness. And so most carriers are going to be the most strict about that. And it's usually someone at a facility that's sneaking something in more than it is a carrier.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense than it would be the shipper. And I would imagine if they are smuggling, it's probably not. I mean, it's probably like almost like one-offs, right? Trying to get one through.
Or the other thing is the truck gets pulled over when it's closer to the border, and then the driver's two options are to either do it or get killed. So there's then it's just, are they getting caught at the border or not? Just completely depends.
Yeah, we have a customer actually, and their business has nothing to do with this, but he's middle of nowhere, Alabama, close to Birmingham. He's got a lot of land, real country guy, but he's got some agreement with some DEA or something. So they seize trailers or equipment and they take them to him, and him and his people just tear them apart to look for drugs, money, or whatnot. And he's found all kinds of stuff. He'll send us pictures, and you just wouldn't believe it. But it's funny because he's like middle of nowhere, Alabama, like nowhere near the border. I don't know how it got set up, but
you got to watch. You know why that probably is? Because there's so much stuff coming out of Mexico that goes to the southeast, and that's like a throughway, like cut through there. I will say you got to watch To Catch a Smuggler. You want to learn how
it's been a while. That's a good show, though.
It's an amazing show, and it actually teaches you a lot about the border. If you watch one of those episodes that takes place in like Laredo or El Paso, like you see how they do truck inspections. Like they unload the freight sometimes. They cut into it. They look in the produce. They break open like lettuce and stuff like that to see if stuff's in there. Like they look in melons and all that. Like there's all sorts of crazy stuff that people do to smuggle stuff into this country.
Yeah. Well, I know we're getting towards the end. I did kind of want to ask this because, I mean, you said, Cargado's got 50 of the top 100. You guys have you just started about 2 years ago. I'm sure there's other founders of businesses in tech or other things, but like, what would you guys attribute your massive growth to? I was kind of curious too. I see so many Cargado. It's not just you on LinkedIn, but your sales reps, customer success. Are you guys like, encouraging all your employees to post, and that's kind of helped you get the word out, but you're at all the conferences. I mean, how have you guys, managed to, kind of explode in this short time period?
It started with my newsletter that I started writing when like the Carta Porte Complemento Carta Porte came out and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, the team gets excited about posting on LinkedIn. Sahil Bloom is an investor. And if you're familiar with him, and he's given me some tips and tricks on building social media following. And so, I mean, like our product is great. It is a great product. I don't think we show it off enough. You could look at our website now and there's more of it, but like it is a good product. So when people get a demo, it's like it's a no-brainer. We poured decades of our experience in this industry into our product, into how it works. So like that is why people sign up. Yes, like people know who I am, but like they could get a demo and then not sign up. So
you need a good product too. I mean, not just marketing doesn't close deals in and of itself, for sure.
Yep.
What's kind of what's kind of the future of Cargado? I mean, not to give away any new tips, or where do you kind of envision this thing maybe going 3, 5, 10 years from now?
IPO. I mean, we're not selling the company. Like I've had that question way too many times recently. And like, in spite of what everyone's proposing about all the other companies are going to buy everything. We want to build a collaboration platform for people. This is not about a marketplace. It's not about building a load board. It is much more about helping freight brokers and trucking companies better collaborate. And so it started with how to book loads together and then how to price freight. And we're going to go deeper into how people execute on that stuff to help support more and tie it deeper into customers' TMSs. So integrating with brokerage TMSs. And we've got some other fun stuff coming in the product later this year. I've been saying that pricing tool is the coolest thing I've ever been part of building. I stand by that, but there's something else that's coming later this year that's going to be even cooler. But that I cannot share yet.
Awesome. Yeah. No, it's been great. We appreciate you joining the episode. That's really cool that CEO Bloom's an investor. I follow him, keep up with his stuff. I read his book that he recently published. It was very good.
Yeah, we got the book. He spoke to the team about the book, and we got the book for everybody on the team.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great one.
You got some cool people in your network. We had Clay out from FreshX, Clay and Lance. Got to meet them in Vegas. I know you guys are pretty close to. Cool seeing what they're doing too.
Yeah, I mean, there's Gaia Dynamics, FreshX, Good Ship. Oh God, I can't go through it. There's 10 or 12 companies that I'm an advisor or an angel investor in. But yeah, I like helping other founders. That to me is something that I've started to enjoy more and more. And, I made a lot of mistakes building Forager, and I've learned from those mistakes, and now we've built Cargado, and we've worked, it's funny. I found a picture of a dry erase board from October of 2023 that mapped out the plan for about a year, including finding a co-founder and CTO, doing our public launch, or doing our MVP and our public launch. And all those dates aligned perfectly to what ended up happening. So when you know what you want to go build and go do, and you've got a plan and experience, it lines up really nicely.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thanks again for joining us. It was fun. I learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure Will learned a lot about Mexico freight too.
Yeah, and other things. So yeah, we appreciate it. I'll get with you. I'm gonna want to demo myself.
I know you do need a demo now.
Yeah, I didn't know we had agents using it too, so I found out something new too.
I'll shoot you a note once I find out who that is.
Well, it looks like we lost Matt there. The other Matt. Matt, appreciate you joining. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, that'll do it. Lost the other dog, but I guess I'll just do the exit. Shout out to our sponsors, Sales-CRM, Black Box is a user, freight specific. We love it. Multi-service fuel card has been in business since forever. Great fuel discounts, great people. And here's Matt. Welcome back, Matt. I was just
about that. That was I hit a button or something. So.
You're good, man. I was just doing the sponsors. I did Sales Dash and Multi Fuel. If you want to hit a couple there.
Yeah, HD Ships, where I recruit agents for. Black Box, Will's company, Wirebee, great product. We had them on a show a couple weeks ago. AI carrier vetting, and brought to you by Taft's top 10 factoring company, Ryan and Robert. Fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. And then special shout out to Trio. They do all of our graphics, all that good stuff. Staffing out of the Philippines and possibly a Monterey office soon. Well, that'll do it. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that episode. I learned a lot. I had a lot of questions about Mexico, cross-border freight, and got a lot of them answered. So it was a good one.
Yeah, well, we'll be back next week.
All right, Matt, enjoy your weekend.
You too.
All right, see ya.